Narthaki Podcast.
Welcome again, everyone. I have with here a true blue celebrity icon. I mean, really. And I'm going to tell you my personal experience why. We've been friends for 50 years. First, we are Guru Bhai, Guru Behan. And of course, through our wonderful Guru, the late Padma Shri Adiyar K. Lakshman. But more than dance colleagues, Ramli and I have shared so many moments beyond and outside dance. And many years ago, when we had to enter Malaysia with the written form, the document, where are you staying, how many days, which airline did you come on. So I then put Ramli's address, Ramli Ibrahim. At that time, he was at the old Sutra, Titivangsa. And the immigration person looks and says, you stay Datuk Ramli Ibrahim? Yes. Then he stopped, he looked around to his next colleague there, and in Malay said that she's staying with Datuk Ramli Ibrahim. And then I stood there for about 3 minutes as they were saying, how you know? So I knew that he really was somebody who had burst the boundaries and geography of just dance. And it was not uncommon in the early days and it was a very different Malaysia then, to see his face on hoardings and posters in magazines, either aligned with a glamorous product, a new car launch, fashion designer. So here's somebody who's as comfortable in a Phantom or a Rolls Royce as he is riding pillion at 200 kilometers an hour on a Harley Davidson down East Coast Road in Chennai, searching at 2 a.m. for the best cup of filter coffee. So Ramli, welcome to this conversation. I wanted to ask you, the artist and the celebrity, they can be two very different people. How do you negotiate that?
Anita, I really don't know. Because I am quite, not say I'm unaware, but I am really conscious of the fact that to be an artist is a gift. And, you really have to move to stay on the same place. And it's a constant change of things that you don't. By the time you describe me, I thought that perhaps that the last one is, of course, going to have a Karaikudi coffee fix was just yesterday, and it was a terror ride on a motorbike. But really, I think I keep moving forward. So I never look at myself as celebrity, because the next day I'll probably be sweeping the floor for my dancers or making coffee for them or whatever. I mean, that's the reality of being really an artist in Malaysia. It's quite it's also a gift, but also it's a very difficult position.
Not just in Malaysia.
Not
just in Malaysia.
Yes.
I want to go back many years. You were a teenager, a virtuoso dancer for the Sydney Dance Company in Australia. And you said that in the 8 years that you were with the company, you did your seva to dance. You were performing almost 250 days in a year.
Correct.
Sometimes not even remembering which city you were in.
Yes.
What did you learn about yourself, your body, and dance itself during that time, before you started and you encountered Bharatanatyam?
Well, I really felt that I think really dance is for youth, truly, because with the ballet and the modern dance, because I was trained in classical ballet, at the same time mainly in the Martha Graham technique, though I take on the Limon technique also when I was in New York. So there are exercises of the Limon, basically to look at the body in the most efficient way to create the effective body, the divine geometry of the dancer. but at that time, the obsession of creating shapes in the air, especially, requires that kind of body control. Whereas in Indian dance, the timelessness of the body and the rootedness with the earth is something else, and that's where I look at the abhinaya, the rasa, for example, the concept of expressing the whole internal landscape through rasa. And actually the body too was something that I find, and as what Sandhya-ji was talking about, the yoga experience of dance is very much for me something that I've learned from the Asian tradition, going back again to the Asian tradition.
So ballet, then Bharatanatyam, and then Odissi.
Odissi, yes.
So what is it about Odissi that you found so appealing?
That's the thing. I was first attracted to Odissi through listening to Raghunath Panigrahi. And of course, later on, I'm talking about the 70s. And I think the concept, the Dionysian idea or the manifestation of the Dionysian qualities from Odissi, especially from the Tribhanga, and the way that the rib cage is articulated. I was brought up in the Kalakshetrabani, where I thought that it was very overtly Apollonian. And it's almost like the Royal Ballet of ballet, which means that it is really, you have to do it so right. The hand is so extended and symmetrical, and it's almost predictable. I really feel also, just to digress, the word choreography for me sometimes don't apply to Bharatanatyam, because the Panjara of the Adavus, especially the Kalakshetra style, has constricted the movement of the dances. So the singular quality of Odissi for me is that balance of the Dionysian, the Apollonian, the Chauka and the Tribhanga that makes it very attractive, and of course the music. But that is not to say that one is better or the other, but I think it's because of the attraction, because my personality is both that. Am I to say that I have a more balanced personality? I don't know.
But having the movement vocabulary of ballet, Bharatanatyam, and Odissi,
Yes.
I have watched you teach
Yes.
at Sutra. What is the pedagogy that you developed? I've seen you ask your dancers to do jetés across the... So how have you combined all three that are seemingly not really have the common thread?
Well, the thing, I remembered when I presented Chandrabanu in a workshop at the Australian Ballet. Remember, Chandra was saying that in Indian classical dance, we actually start with the Aramandi, or what you call a plie. So plie or brahmari or pirouette are not only in the realm of ballet. The Indian dance have done it. So jeté or uplabanas are also done, but we wanted it to be well. So, but I was, for a long, long time, because of my ballet training, very conscious that I don't extend myself the way, arabesque or, a lunge that is really lunge kind of thing, but I make sure that it is softened by the Indian. So I was very conscious, and so later on, when I gone to Nityagram, of course, I was a friend of Pratima Bedi. When I saw that, Bijoyini and Surupa used to look at us doing our warm up in ballet very quickly, because in ballet I can just do the warm up slowly but efficiently doing the plie, the tendu, the rond de jambe, and all those kind of things, the développé to stretch the muscle. And then starting with the stamping and things like that, you know. So there is a quick method of warming up the body quickly, you know. And of course, I'm not afraid of using yoga also to stretch the limbs and things like that. Yeah, but there is a clear, in 1.5 hour class, we do at least 20 minutes to half an hour of strong ballet or modern warm up to stretch the body.
So in the 70s, when you were learning Odissi and
Yes.
performing Odissi, it was primarily only performed by women at that time.
Yes.
So how, or did your guru sort of reshape or tweak or make some adjustments in the way he taught you or told you what was appropriate and to use, yeah, you know, when
Well,
you performed
yes.
solo Odissi?
Well, it started with Lakshman also to a certain extent. With Lakshman, with Chandrabanu and I, we started to bring a lot of male dancers going to Chennai, as you know, thinking that, you know, this is how the male dancers can, you know, I think both Chandra and I had elevated the status of the male bodies in Malaysia, and so the huge exodus of male dancers coming. And then when I went to Orissa, I didn't say that I stopped Bharatanatyam, but in Orissa also, I went to, consciously went to Guru Deva Prasad Das, who has also the Tandav quality and the darker tantric qualities of his work that are very, very, for me, very attractive for me and very strong for me. Whereas with Lakshman sir, with that strong Tirmanams and things like that, his works are starting to open up to a kind of a gallery kind of, you know. I think after Lakshman, the Tirmanam got longer and longer and was performing for the galleries, so to speak. And it continues. I mean, eventually it's like a 50-minute Tirmanam before fantastic Ardi and all that kind of thing. So I found that the Odissi 1 with the Sabda Swarapata and all that, where both the Abhinaya and the Nritta part and even the Natya part was attractive, and I like the music. So I think there's a lot of scope, and they do say that the Deva Prasad style has a very stronger Tandav quality compared with the Kaluchara and Mahapatra, which was much more embellished. It's almost like the filigree, whereas the Deva Prasad style was more like the Mahari, chunky jewelry.
Ramli, very early on, even before it became more common in India, you used your celebrity, your privilege in Malaysia, and you took your dance to spaces like museums and malls and hotels and parks and galleries and fashion shows and car product launches and so many things that were happening in the 80s and 90s, which the Indian dance world could have regarded as not auchitya. And did you do it consciously? Did you drive it? Did you use your celebrity to bring focus to the dance that you were doing?
No, I don't think I was using my celebrity. I was in a very avant-garde company in Australia that was very sensual. The Sydney Dance Company, when I spoke to Harsh, what was it, Harsh? No, with Antonio, I said that my first role with the Sydney Dance Company was as Nijinsky in a work based on the life and art of Jean Cocteau. So, you know, in this work, there was time when Jean Cocteau was obsessed with the male body that I had to, not just me, with everybody else, had to dance nude. And this was viewed also by my parents, because the lighting was so subtle that they didn't realize that it was all in nude anyway. But the whole company was very sensual, because we were chosen because of the sensuality. And when I got back, I didn't realize that we were on the threshold of the fundamentalist Islam, and I used to dance a Shiva dance, wearing literally a langota kind of costume of Shiva, and I didn't think this is the way I dance, and I must share this experience when I shook hand with the former controversial Prime Minister of Malaysia. He shook hand with me on an occasion of a launch of my creative ventures, and he turned back, but looked back at me and said, "Oh, Ramli, it's you. I didn't recognize you with your clothes on."
Okay. Well, you talked about your Malaysia and the government. You have experienced pushback.
Yes.
And you have, people might think that, that money tap opens and flows, but I know that it is not quite so.
No.
No. And,
No.
and that you have in many ways supported all of Sutra's developments.
Yes.
But I want to bring you to the idea of the fact that you have not, it's not been smooth sailing all along.
Certainly not. Yes. Yeah.
Two controversies
Yes.
that erupted in India. One was your dancers not wearing a dupatta,
Yes.
which angered many people in Orissa.
Yes.
And then there was, during the lockdown and the pandemic, about how you handled a student who was not responding to your teaching, and of course the cancel culture brigade just cancelled you outright. So how do you react when these kinds of moments erupt and become such a large controversy that that's all people want to talk about?
Well, you know how it is, because you are more the queen of social media than I am, Anita. Because I don't even sometimes know how to open a Facebook or Instagram.
He doesn't know how to open Facebook and Instagram.
Because it's just that I will tell my office, this is the content, and they will do that, even this morning. And I am not really a social media person. So I literally, actually, all through my life, I look at things like I let the universe look after me. Yeah, I follow my bliss, and a lot of the young people are thinking too much of what is going to happen, who is going to look after me when I'm old, and I don't think we ever thought of that. Yes. So in terms of those, my dances, certainly during that time, were very, very, very svelte. They don't need the ordinary at that time to flow. It's just like the Kathak dancer, just when you see, they don't wear an ordinary or whatever it is. And I remembered your platform of Narthaki discussed about this, and I only talked once, and I state my case, and the rest, from Shanta Sarabjit Singh to Sukanya Rehman and all that, spoke 3 generations without an ordinary, Yamini Krishnamurti danced without an ordinary, and a whole lot of things. And so Auchitya, what is proper is not what you wear, but what is the attitude and how you project your whole art form, rather than at this day and age, you have to justify everything to the whole lot of the world with their whatever point of view that they have. But it's really sometimes up to you to know what is right and what is wrong, and you trust yourself for it and you stand by it. But if if the conversation goes beyond that, I just can't cope with having to justify every everything that I do. I move on.
The subject of today's conversation is presence and absence.
Yes.
How do you understand that?
This is the thing, your legacy, and I'm so kind of felt very small when I'm here, and to look at the legacy of Maya Didi. And of course, I know her well. Whenever we travel to Hampi, or where we'll stop and be with her, or with Maya and some of the dancers here. Remember this, when Sutra was here, much a time when Nityagram was set up. But I've been moving forward so much that, of course, we have our photograph, we have film, we have our programs and things like that. But we have yet to stand back and look at what have we done so far. But we know that we have kind of instigated a lot of things in Indian classical dance area, in terms of the releasing of the inhibitions in terms of space, and not looking at the front and back only, but the whole thing, the back, and the use of group work. But we haven't really truly I know I really sometimes don't care very much what I've done so much. I just want to go move forward, and the joy and bliss of working with new people and all that kind of thing has pushed that part of thinking about legacy, which is dependent very much on who is writing the legacy for you. Yeah,
But there's so much documentation. You're one of the few dancers who travels with a photographer, with now a videographer. You've had all those beautiful books that have been released, and photographs. People have painted you.
Yes.
And not to mention the articles and short films, full-length films. Who is going to inherit all this documentation at Sutra?
Well, the elements are going to inherit it. I've just did work called Maniti Chakrawala. It's almost about, it is really about the cosmic connections, the science and romance of the creation. And, I have always realized how small we are in the context of the community, in the context of the state, in the context of the world, and in the context of the universe. And you are just but a speck of dust in all this, and I really sometimes feel that I am very grateful that I am able to explore the celebration of there's one part of it, Brian Cox and even Carl Sagan, who said that the universe is trying to experience itself through us artists. And I think even, we talk about AI and all that kind of thing, that the very thing that AI perhaps are not truly able to emulate is through rasa. Yes.
But I think AI responds to what it is fed.
Yes.
But what are
Yes.
your concerns and challenges about what AI can do to the creative arc, to an individual?
I am very concerned. I am very, very, very concerned. And there is not just a creative, but an existentialist crisis. And I really don't know what is going to happen when AI then even overtake us in terms of thinking, that they can emulate even our creativity, and our so-called humanity is fed into AI itself. So that is going to be terrifying. But the thing is, AI is then, it thinks in a far, far more bigger arc than the individual. But as a person, as an artist, I feel that the individual is supreme. though, Sandhya Ji is part of a huge institution that is able to speak to a larger person, but that very popularity is going to devalue the very thing that this is a fantastic a space and more intimate, but the institution wants it bigger and bigger. If possible, the LED screen is bigger than this, and that kind of thing eventually will diminish the depth of art form like dance and arts that requires that kind of human contact. How many of you now enjoy traveling in huge airports? No. Walking up and down airports and all that, where last time the smaller airports was so much more a privilege to travel in, but now it's not. So the proportion has gone out of the human proportion now, and we suffer from the overexposure of dance in TikTok or in Instagram and all that kind of thing, whereas the real artists probably are not care very much about TikTok and social media.
So Ramli, you have handed over both homes, Old Sutra and the home you're living in, to the foundation.
Correct.
And yet, from the way you speak, do you ever wake up in the morning one day and say, what am I doing this for? Is it all worth it? Why am I just persisting? Do you ever have those kinds of moments?
I don't, actually, because I'm not really, I really one of those people that I'm not really care very much about success as measured to the number of people or how much money you have, because I think both of us were exposed for a long time to such wonderful life. Having lunch, being driven in a Rolls Royce or whatever it is not our idea of having a good lunch. And it could have been somewhere in a village or somewhere in Bali, somewhere in different parts of India.
Brickfields, having
in
a
brickfields,
bow. Yes.
Exactly.
A steamed bow with red bean paste.
Or being massaged by a blind masseur or something like that.
Yes.
So for us, it is the adventure. I need to, before I close my chapter, I need to clean up all this area of properties, and so that it's not going to be a mess later. And what better way for it to perpetuate it just a bit longer? My place is open for artists, as you know.
Yes.
It's artists all over the place coming over. They stay back, and they make the place so wonderful. So I really, I don't think that part of it, maybe I could spend more times in Provence or somewhere there and have a wonderful time. And thank you for the diptyque, because I can't afford it anymore now, something expensive like that.
But what I'm trying to say is that, you seem so carefree. You've created such enormous body of work. You are not really worried about your legacy. But you do realize that it is you who are the face of Sutra. You're the fundraiser. You have to appear. You have to meet with the potential sponsors, because there is no other Ramli. And I'm sure there are other people who want to meet you and not even the best number two. So how will Sutra negotiate that? Because we are driven more and more to an age of celebrity.
Yes. So I do get very impatient when someone said that Ramli Ibrahim and his troupe, rather than Sutra Foundation. But someone would say your brand name Ramli is bigger than Sutra and all that. But I try to correct that. The trouble is, Anita, like you also, I'm interested in so many things, from sculpture to literature to films to fashion and all that. My dancers tend to have a one-sided thing. So I communicate with a whole kind of people, in Malaysia or even outside. So this is the problem with trying to shake their shoulder and to say that you really got to open your worldview to as many things as possible and speak and integrate with the best of fashion, with the best of painters, with the best of literature. Like you said, in the context of Maya Rao, that she's with everybody. So she becomes also a center for everybody's point of reference, which is wonderful.